This week we continue our theme of stewardship, and this time we're looking at serving neighbours and serving God. And our Bible reading is the story of the Good Samaritan, and this is from Luke 10. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbour as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbour?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he travelled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbour to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." Some years ago, there was a big craze for churches to put up banners outside which said, "Love your neighbour." I always took a bit of an issue with it because I thought they should have had the whole picture, which is love God and love your neighbour as yourself. Indeed, I would doubt that it's possible to love our neighbour as God would have us love our neighbour unless we love God first. So this lawyer, as the Bible term, well, not really a lawyer, he was an expert in the law, an expert in the law of Moses, in the first 5 books of the Bible. So he would teach the law and he would teach its application. Interestingly, the passage says he wants to justify himself. So you wonder quite how had he understood this business of loving your neighbour as yourself. I expect he had had a very narrow understanding of it. So he asked Jesus to explain to him, hoping, of course, that Jesus is perhaps going to agree with him. And I don't think Jesus does. So Jesus introduces us to the story, and the man is attacked by the robbers, and the first man coming along is a priest. These are the people that offer the sacrifices in the temple, and you'd think he would be someone that would help people. Then, of course, along comes a Levite. Levites assisted the priests in the temple. They could have been anything from builders to gardeners to cleaners, all sorts of jobs they did. But it was both of these groups of people. Their role was very central to the religious life of the country. They were the people that made things happen. And neither of these people helped. They crossed by on the other side. Of course, for Jesus, it's because these people, even if they love God, they do not love their neighbour as they should, because they should go and help this person, whoever he is. And then, of course, along comes the Samaritan. The Samaritan is, of course, someone that you wouldn't expect to help. And yet he stops, he looks after the man, takes him to where he can get help, and pays the bill for him. So this story is quite a shocking story, I think, for the Levites to hear. Now, it's all about love. Before we get to loving our neighbour, that passage says we should love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our strength, and with all our mind. Perhaps you might have some ideas. What does that mean for you? If we say we love God, how do we love him? With heart, soul, strength, and mind. The second command is, of course, to love our neighbour as ourself. And Jesus challenges some of the ways we think about others. He challenges the way we distance ourselves from people who are not like us. So he challenges the ways that we always try to narrow down our obligations. And it's easy to think we could be like the Samaritan, but perhaps before we get to that, we need to think of ourselves as the victim in the story. We are the people that need God's love. And only when we have received God's love are we able to love God. And only when we love God are we able to love our neighbour as ourselves. The lawyer at the end, well, Jesus told him to go and do likewise. What would that mean for me? What would it mean for you to go and live your life like that Samaritan? Will it be expensive? Would it be costly of time and money and effort? And are we prepared to do that? Or is our vision much narrower? I hope we're going to find a few things to discuss in this well-known and well-read passage of the Bible. It is certainly one of my favourites.